Hello, I'm Virginia Ann Sharber, Executive Director of the Hunter Museum, and I'm pleased to welcome you to CAHI Memorial's 20th Annual CAMBUSH Arts for Health Series. Thank you for joining us for this virtual event. The Hunter has been partnering for more than a decade with CAHI Memorial to present Arts for Health, a perfect alignment of mission and vision for both organizations. Now, more than at any time in the past century, health and wellness are at the center of our attention, globally and locally. Although just one of many tools needed to promote wellness, art plays a critical role, providing both solace and connection during difficult times. Museums provide safe spaces for people to take a break from the stressors in their lives and work on mindfulness, which is good for both physical and mental health. The Hunter has launched a number of initiatives utilizing art as a path to wellness. From our Artful Yoga series, which we conduct in partnership with CAHI Memorial, where each month we bring together people of all ages who get a chance to slow down, feel an authentic experience with art, and share a time of reflection, to our Art of Diagnosis and Balance program, where we work with med students, nurses, and physicians in monthly in-gallery sessions to help hone observation skills to improve diagnosis and work on life balance. We see every day the impact that art has on all those who experience it, and are delighted to partner with CAHI Memorial and CAMBUSH on this long-standing program that so eloquently addresses the connections between the arts and wellness.
Thank you, VA. I'm Shayela Rowe, Creative Arts Therapist and leader of the Arts Therapies and Wellbeing programs at CAHI Memorial Hospital. While I've only been in this position for a couple of years, arts and healthcare at CAHI Memorial has been integrated into the healing environment for over 20 years. Thanks to the pioneering work of CAMBUSH, our medical providers, patients, and visitors have come to expect encounters with poetry, dance, healing gardens, visual art, and music as necessary components of health and healing. In recent years, the CAHI Memorial Arts and Medicine Council, made up of members of our community, has expanded the scope of this work. This vision is furthered by establishing new partnerships with creative arts therapists and students who can bring the expertise of ethics and clinical practice of music, art, dance, and drama therapies into our treatment spaces. Likewise, this vision has deepened our partnerships with local arts organizations and allowed us to engage artists who live and work at the intersections of creativity and social justice and health. At CAHI Memorial, we believe arts and healthcare plays an integral role in our mission to bring health and healing to the most vulnerable while advancing social justice for all. Art inspires innovation and delivers the power of humanity to the eyes, ears, and healing touch of our caregivers. Together with our patients and the community, we express our values for compassion, inclusion, integrity, excellence, and collaboration. Last year, in the efforts to ensure the safety of our community as the COVID-19 pandemic emerged, we were not able to gather for this event. But through the generosity of our 2020 sponsors, patrons, and ticket holders, we were able to collaborate with local artists and arts organizations to share the story of arts and healing from your perspective. I'm pleased to present this short video created in collaboration with Make Beautiful and music by Summer Drugs and Rick Rushing III.
2020 has shown us where art lives. The first thing that I saw was people asking for words of encouragement. Inspire, move us. We're stuck at home. Help somebody, say something. Be creative, help us be creative. We're stuck. I can't wait to see what art has been created during this time.
2020 has been a tough year for everyone, and I think we're all experiencing some kind of trauma, and of course that's on a spectrum. from people who've lost loved ones to those struggling with isolation. And yet, we've seen people dancing in their living rooms, posting free classes online. And I think that is both a reflection of their own need to dance, to stay healthy and to connect to each other, even if it's in a cyberspace, and also a recognition that seeing art, even if you're not participating in it, but you're watching it, is also healing.
If we agree that art is healing, then those that are artists must be healers in some way. As an artist, when you know how powerful your art is, you then own that responsibility to do right by it. You can't half it. You have to honestly commit to it and keep it real.
Healing is a process, whether it's physical or emotional. So I think of art as something that is a salve that soothes a process while we're waiting on the complete healing. And who are we kidding? I think we're always going to be healing from something. So to me, art should be a constant part of our lives because we aren't just hurt once. There are impending things that are going to happen in our lives. So art as a constant therapeutic tool, I think, is vital to human existence.
The pandemic, we're like being stressed and thinking on, what's going to happen tomorrow, what are we going to do, am I going to have a job next week? All these issues are happening that is causing stress. But through art, or just seeing art, it's just like a little window that you can open and see life from a different perspective.
When you have expression and you can express through the arts, I think that really makes a difference in the well-being of the person.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are all gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. But when I woke, I was mistaken. So I laid my head down and cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. 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 Please don't take my sunshine away.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adira. I didn't want anybody to miss that last part where we got to hear Rick Rushing singing, and also the thank you to the sponsors and patrons and everyone who donated last year's event donations to create that video. And I'm just really grateful for everything that went into having that we can share with the community. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined the program this evening, and a round of applause for those artists who were interviewed and filmed for that video. Your work and your voice really inspire us. And I'd like to take this moment to thank you, our sponsors and patrons and art partners and guests, for supporting our mission and valuing the work, for being here this evening. Thank you. Thank you to the Hunter Museum and CHI Memorial Foundation for always graciously hosting and presenting this event. And thank you, CAM, as our gold sponsor and solid rock on which this program began 20 years ago. Thank you to our silver sponsors, Mitch and Deborah Everhart and Life Care Centers of Hickson, for your generous support of the work that we're doing. And also, thank you to Imbibe of Chattanooga for lifting our spirits and generously providing the wine for this evening's event. I'd like to thank our event patrons as well, Art Tech, Art Space Collaborative at UTC, Anna Baker Van Cura, Bob Burrs, Dr. Jim Bush and Angie Bush McWhirt and Carrie Bush Moore in honor of their mother, Cam Bush. Kevin and Allison Ford, Dr. Gordon D. Graham and the Honorable Christina Cook Graham, Jay and Ellen Hevelin, Katrina McCall in recognition of all hospital staff and volunteers, Betsy Kamerdiener, Dr. Benjamin Kellogg, Candy Cruzy, Linda Woodall Fine Arts, Melissa Mead, Jennifer Nicely, Real Estate Partners Chattanooga, and the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga Music Therapy Program. And thank you to our arts partners, Ames Center, Arts Build, Chattanooga Ballet, Chattanooga Theater Center, Hamilton County Schools, Hart Gallery, and Sound Corps. We are in this work together. All right. And on that note, you are all here with us this evening, and though it's a virtual webinar, to get a sense of who's in the room. For those of you who haven't already, would you please say hi in the chat box? Type in your name and just a few words about one place in your life where your personal artistry or creativity gets expressed. So again, give us your name and one place in your life where your personal artistry comes to life. And I will challenge anyone who tries to say that they don't have any artistry, because creativity happens within and across every domain. Okay, I'm looking forward to your responses, and that's going to be used as part of our presentation with Eric later on. So without further ado, it's with pleasure that I would like to introduce our presenters for this evening's program. Please welcome Jules Downham, director of the PopUp Project, along with Jennison Owens, Jerry Adwave, and Mia Milan, who are all principal dancers for PopUp. We also want to acknowledge that Mia is a frontline worker, a PA who has spent the last year working on the COVID ICU unit. And PopUp Project, if you don't know, is a highly acclaimed dance and production company based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with a vision to support a vibrant, diverse, and sustainable arts community. Their work is innovative, responding to history, culture, and social environments by recognizing that artists bring life, perspective, and a unique sense of place to their communities. And many of you know our guest presenter, who has worked with artists and educators in our community previously. He's a recipient of the nation's highest award in arts education and was named one of the 25 most influential people in the arts. He's been a faculty member at Juilliard, Tanglewood, the Kennedy Center, and Lincoln Center Education. He serves as a consultant for cities, states, medical organizations, businesses, 7 of the largest US orchestras, as well as senior advisor to many global arts organizations. In 2018, he launched the International Teaching Artists Collaborative, a year-round program building a global network of artists who work in community and educational settings, including work with artists in the Chattanooga region. It's my pleasure to welcome Eric Booth.
There we go.
There you are.
All right. So hi to you. Hi to everybody in our chat box, our audience out there. And, you know, Sayala, hearing all those thanks, it gives me such a sense of the energy, even in a disrupted year, that we're bringing to this unusual gala that we're having. I'll just give a little start, and then you and I are going to have a conversation. But it's a disrupted year. It's disrupted the gala, and we're going to use what all of us have been using all year long, which is our creative problem-solving skills, taking some chances to do an experiment to honor the healthcare workers by creating a work of art together tonight with everyone who's in our virtual room and giving it its world premiere. I wonder if you can give us just a little background on some, I know we planned to actually ground it in the real experiences of your healthcare workers in the hospital. And you went around and interviewed some of them. How did that go? And maybe we can hear a little of it.
I did actually. So, for our audience that's listening in today, what we're sharing with you is a little bit of our background creative process, like how it starts, where it generates. And it was a conversation of, let's do a fun thing with choreography, with the dancers, with you, and create it live in the space, right? And then we said, well, what about music? What kind of music do we want? And then the idea evolved into the voices of and stories of people, and how spoken word can be just as powerful a music piece, so to speak. And so, the idea was for me to go around and have some conversations with our nurses and our clinical staff and social workers and whoever really within our institution who is interested in sharing their voice, just sharing a quick little snippet of something that really stood out to them about their experience of this last year. And I literally just on my phone held it up in conversation with people, and sometimes covertly so they wouldn't be nervous, and sometimes they would record it themselves and text it to me. And these sound files really were the foundation of what we then took into our collaboration with Carl Cadwell and Erica Roberts and Jules and the dancers and you to create ultimately what that sound piece is that they are going to do their dance to.
Can you give us a sense of a couple of those interviews? Since this is really the foundation of our work, let's hear the voices of some of your frontline healthcare workers and how they responded to your invitation to talk about their year.
I will. I've got two that I think Adira is going to help us cue up and play. We've got a little bit of a graphic in the words along with it.
I've never witnessed the level of adaptability, resilience, and strength that I witnessed this past year. And I couldn't be more proud. I've never witnessed the level of adaptability, resilience, and strength that I witnessed this past year. And I couldn't be more proud.
Go to war and they do a tour of duty, and then I can pull them out and they can come home. And my staff, I haven't been able to alleviate them of taking care of patients. As a leader, that's difficult because you want to help them, and I can't. And the patients still need to come, and we still need to serve. And we get up every day because this is who we are and what we do. Go to war and they do a tour of duty, and then I can pull them out and they can come home. And my staff, I haven't been able to alleviate them of taking care of patients. As a leader, that's difficult because you want to help them, and I can't. And the patients still need to come, and we still need to serve. And we get up every day because this is who we are and what we do.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. And so, Sayeli, you took this collection of audio recordings and you gave them to our poet, the poet we met in your film, Erica Roberts. And what was your invitation to her?
Right. So this was a collaborative piece between Erica Roberts, who is a phenomenal wordsmith and performer in her own right, and Carl Cadwell from Summer Dregs, and the dance crew, really. And I want to clarify too that Jennison and Jules selected the beats from Carl's archive that would be used, and Jules organized the structure to the song. For example, they asked for Erica to build tension by introducing the faster beats for the transition to occur on the word release, and for the emotion of it to be ambiguous. And you're going to hear that in a minute when we play the sound file. And Jules was also in the studio with Erica during the recording, and they worked together on the performance quality. So Erica brought in the rhythmic delivery to answer Jules' request for tension in the first half, and Jules asked her to change that around and release. And this is not to minimize anyone's contribution, but really to elevate that magic that happens in collaboration. Every participant was amazing, but people so often assume that dancers just respond to what's given to them musically and lack understanding around how, as producers, they are also involved in the music creation as well as working with musicians to build the story that they need in the song. But I will say, in my conversation with Erica, she listened to the voices of our frontline workers, not just those 2 sound pieces, but there were about 10 others. And she listened to them over and over and over and over again, really taking it in. And only then did she deliver the combination of words that she created. And so, you know, at that point, after sort of infusing what our nurses and frontline workers gave to her, she then took that and put that into a really concise piece. And then the collaboration began with the dancers and with Carl to create the ultimate product.
Fantastic. Well, to all of our attendees here, we're about to go to work. So thank you, Sayela, and don't go far away. I know you're going to keep an eye on the chat box because we're going to invite our participants here to offer some thoughts, maybe some suggestions for the choreography that lies ahead. Thank you. So everybody, here's what we're setting out to do. We have a partly completed dance, and it's going to be up to us to complete that dance. And here's why we're doing it. We are celebrating the courage, the grit, the compassion of the healthcare workers, their creative problem-solving skills, the way we were just hearing how the artists worked. It's exactly the way many of those healthcare planning sessions were, figuring out what to do when no one knew what to do. We're celebrating everybody's flexibility and risk-taking, and we're working together. And just a little side note before we begin, the work of arts and healthcare, I think many of you are aware, this is a gigantic burgeoning trend in our country. What this series celebrates and what the Arts in Healthcare program celebrates is this rising tide of awareness that I see all over the world in my work. This recognition that the arts bring something distinctively potent into the skills and potentials of healthcare. And I'm seeing programs abound, not just 20 partnerships between medical schools and museums in the last 15 years to sharpen the diagnostic skills of doctors, not just arts therapists that are proliferating around the world, but a real explosion even in creative aging. My work is with teaching artists. It's the fastest growing employment area because we've discovered how much money is saved and how much healthcare benefit there is when older people are fully engaged in the arts. We're just at the beginning of discovering what the arts can do for health, and we're going to celebrate that in making an artwork today. So before we really get started, I wanted to get a bit of a sense of our audience by popping some polls at you. So Dara, if we can put up poll number 1 to just get a little bit of sense of everybody's voting. And here's our first poll. What percentage of the work done by healthcare workers during this pandemic has involved creative problem solving? Let's see what our audience thinks. I personally think it's a lot higher than we usually credit medical people and scientists with. And we'll have a chance to talk to one of our dancers, Mia, who's been on the front lines for a year. And we're going to have some audience members appear on screen who can maybe give us some info. You got your votes in? You got 10 more seconds. What's your guess? What do you think this group thinks about the creative problem-solving component of medical work in this pandemic? Let's see the answers. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh man, a plurality, a majority is up that it's 90% or more of what they're actually doing. Remember that when you look at healthcare workers. This is creative problem solving of the highest order at the highest stakes. They deserve our dance work. Let's have a second poll, since we're going to ask you to be choreographers tonight. And this is just a yes/no question. Let's see what poll number 2 asks us. Would you describe yourself as a choreographer? What do you think our participants tonight are going to split on that? And just a few more seconds. All right, let's see the choreographic. Whoa, look at that. Perfect, even split. Very impressive. I got to say, I thought this was going to be much more on the no side. Well, we're going to have a lot of expertise to contribute to this dance work tonight. And let's go to our third poll, which softens the definition of choreography. And it's, do you sometimes dance or make choices about how you and others move through space? So this is dance, but not just, like dance making. Do you never? Yes, but not so much lately. Yeah, but I do it, but I don't think of it as something special. Yes, I often think about people in spatial arrangements. I'm a choreographer, even though I don't use the term. Or, yep, I'm a dancer in everyday life. We had a couple of comments in the chat box that suggest we should have a few in that last category. Where does your daily life as a mover through space live? Just a few more seconds. And let's see those results. Yeah, we're in the middle zone there. Like, we don't really think of ourselves in the dance zone, but we recognize there's this consciousness about movement, awareness, decision-making about movement that's happening all the time. And I'm always happiest when the definition of choreography embraces to hold that. In fact, that's the work of teaching artists. The number one job of a teaching artist is to activate the artistry of other people. And that's what we hope to do tonight. So I want us to get started. Let's bring up onto the screen our dancers, and we have a few brave audience members who have agreed to be on screen so that we can use them directly sometimes in getting some choreographic ideas. So let's get PopUp onto our screen. Yeah, and maybe we can go out of spotlighting for the moment so we can get a look at our new arrivals. There's our dancers. Then we got, just to remind you again, we heard about Jules and Jennison, Jerry and Mia. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. There we go. And I am going to start by reading Erica Roberts' poem. This was one of the foundation stones. So just like dancers always do, to become aware of your source material, let me read this maybe a couple of times. So this is the poem Erica wrote in response to hearing all those videos that Sayala gathered for us. It's called Timing. 30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks. Only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired. Needing relief soon. A sacred space. A quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniformed danger, secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts. Present, even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives. Restoring the faith that helps us survive. So that's part of our base knowledge. And audience members, I'm going to read it again, and into the chat box, any words that jump out to you or responses that you may have, We're going to just listen to it one more time. From Erica Roberts, Timing. 30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired, needing relief soon. A sacred space, a quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniformed danger secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts, present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives. Restoring the faith that helps us survive. And Jules, hi. I'm seeing words that jumped out in the chat box. And since you are a part of adding the music to that language architecture, I wonder if you can introduce the recording and let's hear it. We may need to hear it more than once, since this is what we're going to be making our choreography to. I'd love to hear it once and then hear what responses came up for you in your group's dance thinking.
Sure. "30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired, needing relief soon. A sacred space, a quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniform danger secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts, present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives, restoring the faith that helps us to survive.
Beautiful. I think we're going to need to hear it again. So for our audience, it's a minute long. It's got a clear shift in the middle. There's a transition point from the middle. And Jules and dancers, what jumped out for you as you were first getting to know that piece?
Well, I had a chance to hear the audio recordings from the healthcare workers before Erica wrote the poem, and I thought she did such an amazing job of capturing what was in their reflections. But what really stood out to me was that countdown and her putting a time to the experience, which gave us this sense of urgency. And she's talking about they have seconds to do something. There's not a lot of time to make decisions to recover after their experiences. They have to continue moving quickly sometimes, and their need for space and recovery. Those were the things that stuck out to me. And then that word release, which is where the transition is, was a really big thing that stuck out as well.
Beautiful. And dancers, thank you for your patience. I'd love to listen to it one more time so that our choreographer audience can actually start to get a sense of the shape of it. Those markers with the verbs are kind of key verbs about respond, reset, ready, release, and reflect, and start to know that the second half is left open for us to choreograph. So let's listen one more time. And audience, if you recognize things in the piece that we want to pay attention to for dance, any comments in the chat box about little notes for us as choreographers?
30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset.
tired, needing relief soon, a sacred space, a quiet room, 20 seconds to be ready. Uniform danger secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives, restoring the faith that helps us to survive.
Yeah. And I'm noticing that 10-second fade at the end. So we have a 10-second diminuendo. Jules, you all came up with a narrative to structure the choreographic choices. Can you tell us what you've got? Or maybe you want to do it with movement too, or a sense of the plot line.
I'll give an overall scope, and then later we'll do it with movement as well. The PopUp Project is a storytelling organization, and we use dance to tell stories. So we very often put a narrative onto our dance pieces. And in this one, we chose to have 3 characters. We have a healthcare worker. This is Mia. She is a healthcare worker in real life. She's been working on the front lines in COVID ICU for the last year, so thank you, Mia. And she plays the healthcare worker in this piece. We have Jensen Owens, and she is playing our patient. And then we have Jerry Eduardo, and he is playing the family member of our patient. And in our narrative, it begins with something has happened. There's been an emergency. Jerry takes his family member to the healthcare worker for help and passes her off. There's going to be a moment where you see the movement stop, and the healthcare worker, we go inside her subconscious, and we see her reaction, her preparation to give care. She comes back. There is a concerted effort to give care, kind of that build up. And then in the release moment, we've left it up to you to make the decision of what happens to our patient and to our healthcare worker and to our family member for the last half of the song.
Jules, could you give us a mark through of the first half in really just at a slow pace so we can get a first introduction to the movement?
Okay. Without music, I'll kind of talk through what's happening in our story, okay? So, something happens. It's just the mark through, guys. Jerry takes our patient to get help and passes her off. There is a quick assessment of our patient. There's a pause in our story. We enter the healthcare worker's subconscious. You will be able to give her some cues on how to respond here. She's preparing to take care. She goes back into the room. They begin an organized effort to fight whatever this is that our patient is dealing with. There's building up, then there's going to be one final push, and then something happens. You all decide what.
Can we see that with the sound now that we have a general sense of what we've got?
Are you all okay to do a full run? Yes. Okay. Here we go.
30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired, needing relief soon. A sacred space, a quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniform danger secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives, restoring the faith that helps us to survive.
Beautiful. And to our audience, when they became still, that's where our choreographic ideas are going to start to shape that piece. Can we have a real slow look at the first section, just like in super slow motion, because you invited us to do some thinking about the healthcare worker's private moment. So let's look really slowly at what sets that up.
Sure. Okay, so something happens. Jerry goes for help. He passes her off to the healthcare worker. There's an assessment. And now our healthcare worker takes a moment to prepare.
Right, and let's pause to there. And can we bring up our on-screen guests? I know we have some audience members. We may need to go out of spotlight for a moment, Adara, because I want to ask, we have audience members who bravely said they would be up on screen and give us a chance to give some back and forth with the dancers. And if we can get them up on the screen, I'd love a little exchange about what the quality of that healthcare worker's private moment is. Maybe we're not going to be able to do that. If our guests, if you unmute, can we hear you?
Hi.
There you are. Hey, thank you for joining us. Do you, as you're getting a little feel for this dance, kind of the story that they're trying to tell, what qualities start to come to your mind about that private moment that the healthcare worker has?
For me, it's something about finding relief and comfort.
Yeah, we got the words in the poem, the needing relief soon, a sacred space, a quiet room.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts for the dancer about how to capture some of the quality you're imagining in her private moment?
I think I am more looking at, because right now they're on a level where I feel like they need to ground themselves, because that is also part of kind of finding comfort. So maybe taking it from the level where they're standing to the level where they are almost like on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that also shows a kind of surrender and a surrender to the situation.
And that you're imagining that in the private moment of the healthcare worker?
Yes.
And should everyone be moving to the ground, or is that the healthcare worker's inner world?
Well, I think because COVID connects all of us, and so I would like to see them with arms outstretched, and then the private moment being a conscious moment for everyone. So everyone kind of descends in that moment and maybe emerges again.
Jules, can we take a shot at that?
Sure. Everybody can move down. And then Mia, you can start from.
Did you see some of what you were thinking of, Sherry?
Yes.
Any tweaks you'd like to make?
Maybe in their connection. Like for me, it was really beautiful in the beginning when there was that connection between that. So for me, I love to see dancers being connected and moving like as one organism. So for me, that is the beauty and the unity of them all being and experiencing the moment simultaneously. So if there could be more connection bodily, then that would be great for me.
Can you figure out a way to do that, Jules? I know we were getting a sense of it with the connection in the private moment that Sherry invited us to add. Can you think of another way to do that?
I think Mia can stay as part of the group instead of leaving, and there can be a connection between them physically in that moment. You want to try that? Okay.
Let's take a look.
Oh, beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, Sherry, I had the same moment of, oh, wow, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, goosebumps, right?
Really. Could we try it with music from the beginning up through that?
Let's do it full out. I'm still doing that. Okay. Ready?
30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired, needing relief soon. A sacred space, a quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniform age.
I'll stop it there.
Wow.
It's so amazing what dancers can do. It's like boggles my mind. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Sherry. Of our other on-screen guests, do you have any thoughts to offer at this point? Maybe just unmute, and then I think that will bring you into focus.
I missed the.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello. I missed the beginning. I'm just coming home from work. I'm a pediatrician. I missed the beginning of the introduction, but I have seen like the dance presentation, and I was just struck by the feeling that's conveyed by the patient, the family member, and then also the medical worker. And when I first saw the patient, my thought was, and I've worked with sick patients, I'm a general pediatrician, so most of mine are pretty happy endings, but the patient, it's like the way she conveys her illness, it was just really striking, and just, it makes you hurt for her. And then you see it mirrored by the healthcare worker, is that same dying almost. And I think it was really beautiful the way they pulled this together. And then at the end, my thought was, what's happened? What's going to happen to the patient?
Right. We're going to, in fact, our choreographic decisions are going to work on that in just a minute. Thank you. You're a really good observer of dance. You were picking up a whole lot from your viewing. Other responses, Rhonda, Joshua, any thoughts to add or suggestions to the dancers with just this much?
So as I was watching, again, the emotion is just very well portrayed by the dancers. I think for the healthcare workers, once the event happens, COVID doesn't resolve quickly. So there is an isolation for days, and there's an isolation of the patient, there's an isolation of the family, and there's an aloneness that the only friend that the healthcare worker feels obligated to fill that void. And I think that's some of the emotional strain that was on our workers, is the healing and treatment process takes time. And the isolation wears on both the caregiver and the patient. So there's a period that you hope things are going to get better, but it's waiting and it's waiting and it's waiting. And you can see the strain begin on both the family and the caregiver. And sometimes that journey is successful and sometimes that journey is not. So then there's an anticipation of which way is it going to go. And in the healthcare world, the COVID, sometimes patients went very quickly. So you would work so hard and then you would lose that battle very quickly and they're gone. And then the reset that the dancer did,
yeah,
the healthcare worker would have to just do it again.
Your ideas about that sort of uncertain time of aloneness, we may be able to move that, catch that in the second half of the dance, where the sound is slowing down and there's a greater sense of duration. Great contribution to get us ahead of ourselves a little bit. Let me quick check in with Joshua. Do you have any thoughts to offer suggestions for the dancers to this point?
Yeah, I just like the concept of, I think immediately of picking the person up in the dance. Like, I really appreciated that, because it is like the healthcare worker isn't just healing the person like physically, but also emotionally, because like you're separated from your family. So there's a feeling of like, how should I pick this person up and support them emotionally, not just physically.
That's going to be an important idea as we come toward a decision about how to end. What is our final physical position going to be? Does it have a lift? We'll get there in a moment. Jules, and I wonder if we can spotlight our dancers. What I would love to do is have a run through of the first half, and then I'm going to invite our audience to vote on what they want to have happen in the second half. So if we can have a run through with sound of the first half, and then we'll listen to what we're going to be choreographing to for that 30 seconds.
"30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired, needing relief soon. A sacred space, a quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniformed angels secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives, restoring the faith that helps us to survive.
Beautiful, thank you. Let's get a sense of where the second half is going to go in terms of a plot. Adara, if you can give us our next poll, we're going to let the audience vote on the plot line. So in this second half, the patient has a quick and full recovery. We heard a little bit from Rhonda that sometimes happens. The patient recovers, but probably has long haul symptoms. Patient starts a recovery. We don't find out how it goes. The patient seems to not be recovering, or maybe the patient gets worse. Would you vote on the plot line that you think fits best with both our poetic and musical soundscape and the dance material we already have? Maybe none of them are perfect, but pick the one that feels rightest for this new work that celebrates our healthcare workers. And just a few more seconds. And let's see what we decided. It's a clear win for an uncertain recovery. A recovery, but we don't get to any sort of clear outcome. So there's a recovering feeling, but we don't get the rest of the We don't get like a clear final button. It's interesting. That's where we want to go. That really expresses where we're at. And I wanted to speak to our on-screen guests to give a little suggestion to each one of our three characters. If that's our plot line, that we're going to have a recovery that's undetermined, first of all, can one of our online on-screen guests, can you speak up, like unmute and come forward, and I'm going to ask you to give some suggestions to our patient. Some movement suggestions in that 20, 30 seconds. Thank you. Can we have one of our guests, Joshua, Rhonda, Cherry, Lisa? Sherry,
Yes.
What kind of sort of shape of the journey of this second half do you imagine for the patient?
So my sense of it right now in terms of shape is almost like the patient has to be their own hero, but they're still being borne up by the other two.
What does be your own hero look like physically? What might be some movement
I was
ideas?
getting like a kind of diamond shape. I don't know.
Let's see what our dancer has for, and you can talk to us, you know, this can be a back and forth.
No, that's perfect. When she holds the shape and then leans from side to side, it kind of shows that kind of swaying, like things aren't being resolved and, you know, she's being tossed back and forth. Yes, exactly. Being tossed back and forth, their uncertainty, yeah, exactly.
Good. Does it like have a, like, is there a journey? Does it arrive somewhere?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we'll find out. Let's hear from someone else. Lisa, maybe. What do you want to think with our family member, or sort of representative of the family who goes through this?
I would think emotionally the family member is going to have ups and downs. So I don't know how, I'm not a dancer. I don't know how the family member should show those emotions. But for family members, especially something like COVID, where it's a long haul, you're going to have ups and downs day to day, even hour by hour, as the patient gets better, gets worse, doesn't get better fast enough. So
that's great. Let's give this suggestion to our dancer and see what we get. This sense of there's this conflict of hopefulness and discouragement, but because our plot has the patient sort of getting better, oh, look what you're working on. And that it, yeah. And maybe it ends up in a slightly more hopeful, because our plot line is a little bit hopeful. Yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, next lifetime, I want to be able to do that. Beautiful. And Rhonda or Joshua, do you have some thoughts for our healthcare worker?
I would say for the healthcare worker, there is a diligence. I agree with Sherry's description for definitely the patient. There is an uncertainty. There is a period of variation. And for the healthcare worker, it's almost the same. So your boundaries, I'm trying not to make this so scientific. I was saying, boy, I don't think I did well in art at all. And I definitely, so it's, they ride the same uncertainty. There's hope, and there's a desire to see the patient succeed, and they really emotionally attached to that patient because
the body takes its own time, so their emotions are with the patient.
All right.
And I agree with the chat, there's something in the chat about the isolation of the family member, the separation, so you don't get that healing spirit from your family. The way, think about your mom bringing you chicken noodle soup at home. The nurse has to be everything to the patient, because
Beautiful.
that's who's there.
Fantastic. Joshua, do you have any sense about what would be some thoughts about the physical relationship between our three characters?
I think we lost Joshua.
Okay, then I'm going to give that to Jules. Jules, are you getting some ideas about the physical relationship from the character suggestions you're hearing?
Well, I am from Rhonda, as we didn't necessarily choreograph this with COVID in mind, which of course is, what is on everyone's mind. But hearing you talk, Rhonda, I think in this last section, actually, our healthcare worker and our patient should be together in space, and our family member should be removed. But they should be riding the same wave. That we should see the ups and downs together, and maybe it's responding to the ups and downs that our patient initiates.
Do you and the dancers have any sense of how the sort of beginning of the physical ideas might shape over those 30 seconds? Can you mess around with it, see what you come up with?
Do you mind if I put music on?
No, do it.
Okay. This is after the lift, yeah.
Like that's how I was interpreting what they were saying.
You guys can speak up a little so they can hear what you're saying.
I was saying that I, based on what you guys were saying, felt sort of boxed in, like it was a lot of weight on me. And then also I'm taking off of her cues, so if she's doing the diamonds, I can sort of also be doing them with her.
Right. Yeah, right. And we had that statement of the family member torturously not being able to be intimate. What might that look like in space?
Feel like, I'm sorry, even for a patient, yearning for your family to be there, and the only person that can be there in that role is your healthcare provider. So I feel like there's lots of yearning for that comfort that is not always possible with because of COVID things. That's what I interpret as the patient.
Could we start to see what that might look like in space?
Okay. Should we go on the left? Sure. Sure. I might not be right on that too, but.
Hearing the hearts present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives, restoring the faith that helps us to survive.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere. What about that final position? Dancers, do you have a feel if our plot line is an imminent recovery but undetermined, and sort of capturing as much as we can about these complex relationships? Do you have some ideas of what that final position, final tableau might look like?
One thing I had thought of, if we didn't want to end in a final pose, but continue music and have sort of a fade to black if we were on stage. As a healthcare worker, her healing is ongoing, and I go on to the next patient. So I can go back to the beginning and quickly move through all the movement as though I had another patient with me, but there's no one there.
Ooh, nice. And we can imagine the lighting effects. So what might the final series of moves as the music is tailing out, what might that look like?
I think one thing in relation to space, how we kind of started was our patient is right in the middle. I'm coming from your camera left, I believe, on your screen. So this is where I am, this is the real world. And the healthcare provider's camera right. I figured we can end in some sort of diagonal where our patient is now front, downstage, camera right, and our medical worker is where the patient was onto the next patient. And I'm here still longing for my family member.
Beautiful. Could you find your way into that? How might that arrive?
Yeah. And Jerry, I think that you can actually move upstage earlier and then maybe come back a little bit closer to her because she is getting better, but we're not quite sure what's happening. Because the space isn't quite reading on camera.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw a suggestion from Ms. Ventura in the chat to have some pacing from you as well. Yeah.
Nice. Jules, are there any, I'm going to invite people to start making little tweaks. Could we just mark through that so our audience members in the chat box or our speakers on our screen can make little adjustments that capture just a little bit more about this feel? So let's just mark through that.
Okay. We're having a technical difficulty with music. One moment.
You want to mark through it without music, that would be okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Audience members, either on the screen, are there any little somethings you're noticing or additional ideas you'd like us to consider? Or in the chat box, same?
I think for me, what was really beautiful to watch was the mirroring. Mirroring really kind of enhanced just all the little choice moments within the choreography. But I love that the healthcare worker she feels burdened, she feels saddened, and she goes from to center stage, and then the family member goes to the background. But what I miss from the family member is that just that deep kind of tension and the heaviness and the isolation and feeling that also that level of burden and not knowing what to do next, what to do with himself. Because here he is as well, boxed and locked into a situation that he's never experienced before, and he can't even grieve properly. There's no release for him.
Does that make a little bit of dancer sense for you, Julie?
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing you say is there's this heaviness in my movement, this struggle internally as I try to long for my, and all I can do is just watch. There's nothing I can do. There's that weight on my shoulders in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. We have a comment from Olga in the chat box. She's interested in the gaze, the eye connections. And I haven't been conscious of that. I've been so distracted by moving bodies. Is there a story of the gaze and kind of how it moves through the story? Maybe we can be more, make a couple of choices about visual connection.
There are a couple of choices in the first half. We have not set them in the second half.
Right, maybe we want to pick one or two moments. What do you think? Where might it happen? Or where might it, like, quite consciously not happen?
At the beginning, instead of being on my own path, I'm really relying on the healthcare worker, not only for the physical care, but also that emotional void. So I think once the second half begins, there can be more connection with the healthcare worker as opposed to separated. So we can keep our focus towards each other here.
Right.
As the journey continues.
And that makes the lack of connection to the family member stronger. Yep, the absence of that connection. Any other thoughts from Jules or the dancers about gaze?
I think maybe by the end of it, whenever our healthcare worker is right in the middle, in between us, that's when me and the patient can reconnect together, but at a distance.
All right. We have come to the moment for a dress rehearsal and then a run through. So the dress rehearsal is just for you all to make whatever little adjustments, tweaks, settling in, and then we're going to go right into a run through. So it's kind of going to be twice in a row. Are you ready?
One more, one run. You guys good? Okay. Yeah, mark through this first time. So I just told them to mark through, which means they're going to basically be doing it, but not full out. You're going to save their energy, okay?
Right. And the full out will come right after.
Yes.
30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired, needing relief soon. A sacred space, a quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniform danger secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives, restoring the faith that helps us to survive.
Beautiful. And thank you and give us one final full flat out run through. This is the world premiere, ladies and gentlemen.
"30 seconds to respond. Feelings filtered through masks, only the eyes being seen. 25 seconds to reset. Tired, needing relief soon. A sacred space, a quiet room. 20 seconds to be ready. Uniform danger secluded on an island of tears. 15 seconds to release. Hearing the hearts present even during the hard and lonely part. 10 seconds to reflect. Honoring the roles that chose our lives, restoring the faith that helps us to survive.
And this is when you'd be hearing thunderous thanks and applause for a world premiere. Thank you all for the generosity and the skill and the care to make that work. You're getting a stream of enthusiasms in the chat box. Thank you so much. Beautiful. And I wish you could hear it because you deserve it. Jules, can you make a transition for us to take a look at what a fully completed pop-up project, choreographic project can look like, and sort of set us up for when you get all the goodies in time and place and rehearsal, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, so we were so fortunate this year to be able to create a dance film based on stories from our dancers' lives, and it has the musical elements that we worked on and creating, much like we did this piece, the choreography, but we got to add things like location choice to help tell the story, costuming, camera angles, and all of that. And so you'll see that we brought that into the full telling of this story. It is a little piece of our full-length film that we're releasing in the summer called The Light We Share. And this piece is by Emma Pancook, and it's about her life with her brother.
Thank you, Jules.
Thank you. I'm so sorry the video was a little shaky. You guys are just gonna have to come see it at the premiere.
We'll be ready to see it.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us. What an honor it was for us to be part of this event. We believe in what you're doing so much, Shayla, and are so grateful for you having us. And thank you, Eric. It's always such a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you to everyone. This was amazing. Thank you to all of our people who volunteered to jump in and be participants. You brought me to tears, Jules. Good grief. Grateful for you all. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for coming tonight.
I'm Jennifer Nicely with CHI Memorial Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this amazing event celebrating the arts and healthcare throughout our city and especially at CHI Memorial. I'd like to thank again our sponsors for making tonight possible, and an extra special thank you to our Arts and Health Council members who worked so hard to make tonight possible. We hope you'll join us again in person next year at the Hunter Museum as we bring you the 21st annual Cam Bush Arts for Health series.